I'm Pam with PJ's Glass Creations, and today I have a tutorial for you that will help add some color to your garden. And if you're like me, I live in the desert, it's really hard to keep flowers alive, so these will never fade, they'll never die. Perfect for your garden. So follow me and learn how to make these really cool flowers. To start, we need to make our petals. This is one that I've already done. I'm going to use it as a demo, but I also am going to make another one. It'll be slightly different colors, actually very different colors, but I just wanted to show you that this is what it'll look like. And we're going to use Frit powders for this. If you are using Frit, you should always wear a mask. You don't want to be inhaling this. And also, this is Frit powder that I had done this before. Once it dries out, it's like powder again. So if you have leftovers, don't throw it away. You're going to keep it. But anyway, I have a decent amount of powder in here, several spoonfuls. And this is a marigold yellow that I'm using. And I'm going to put water, you can pour it in. I feel like I have a little bit more control if I squirt it. And actually, I think I put too much water in. So I'm going to add some more yellow powder. And in a minute, I'll show you what the consistency should be like. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. It kind of comes off in blobs off of my popsicle stick. That's about how you want it. And I'm going to try to make these all kind of uniform in how much I have in each area. And I am just loosely putting it on there. This one I got up too high, so I can just move it down. I am done with all of my powders. So the next thing I'm going to do is spritz them with my water bottle. I want them nice and wet. Want to get all the lumps out. Sometimes it helps if you shake your table a little bit or hit on your table a little bit. And we're going to drag through this, which is why you want it super wet. You want it to blend. And the first thing I'm going to do is go from this corner to that tip. And I'm going to drag it through, kind of like you would do with icing if you were icing a cake and had stripes on it and wanted to pull through. Oh, I keep going to the side on those. Oh well, it'll be fine. And if you get something like that where all the powder comes off, that happens sometimes. You don't want a tip that's bare, so you can add just a little bit more. And next you're going to make 2 lines going from about the halfway point here to the tip. And I am wiping off my popsicle stick between each one, just so my colors aren't too contaminated. And I'm going to spritz it again, just so everything blends. You can see what a difference it makes when you spritz it. See how pretty those are? The final step in making these petals is to get the extra moisture off. So I have a couple of layers of paper towels. and you're just going to blot it. And then I like to use my popsicle stick and kind of go around the edges, get any excess off of the edges. And the final thing I'm going to do is spray with some cheap hairspray. This is just a cheap pump hairspray. And you're gonna start out kind of far away in the beginning so you don't get big, huge drops. And you're going to spray them kind of heavy. And also check to see if you need any touch-ups. Like I'm noticing that right here, maybe I should have done that before I cleaned up my edges, but I'm noticing that right there, I didn't have any on the tip. And I'm going to let this hairspray dry, and that way I can easily transport it to the kiln, and I'm going to put it in for, it's kind of a heavy tack fuse. So I take a tack fuse and I increase my temperature just about 10 degrees so that it really melts in, but it doesn't distort the shape of my flower petals. So that's step one, making the petals. I did want to mention, since you are putting the petals in the kiln, that you might want to do the center of the flower at the same time. This will actually get attached to the flower very last after we attach it to the copper stem. It will hide our hardware. But since you're already doing a tack fuse, you might want to put it in. It's a 1-inch circle, and I just put some coarse frit on the top. You can get really creative, do whatever you want. You can put dichroic in the middle. You can make it 2 different colors. You could add multiple colors, whatever you think would look good. I'm sure it'll be awesome. And the next thing I'm going to show you is we are going to assemble our flower, and I am going to just put all the points together and put them so they're fairly evenly spaced. And I'm going to put some super glue on the edges down in this bottom part. And these are going to have corners that meet as well, or kind of meet, they're fairly close. If they don't meet all the way, don't worry about it, because you're going to be drilling a hole in that middle anyway. You're not going to see that part, and it'll be covered up eventually by this. All right, this part is done. After it dries, I'll be able to move it, and it will go in again at a tack fuse. This one I would do a regular tack fuse, maybe take that extra 10 degrees off. If you didn't do this ahead of time, you can add this in at the same time. Into the kiln it goes. So I actually made 3 different flowers. These I did a contour fuse, and this one I did a tack fuse. I just wanted to see what the difference was. I actually think I like the tack fuse better, but they're all fine. The next thing we're going to do is put them in a mold. This one has some kiln wash on it. I just had to put a fresh coat on. That's why it's pink. But I got it from CPI, and it is GM204. It's an awesome mold. I use it so much for flowers. So into the kiln it goes for a slump, and then we'll assemble it after that. My 3 flowers are out of the kiln, and I have drilled a 7mm hole in the middle of each one using a diamond hollow core bit. And let's get ready to assemble. And to do this, I use some sheet metal screws that are a size 10 by 1.5 inches long. I also use a number 10 washer. Actually, I use 2 of them. So here are my parts. And I'm going to attach them to some refrigerator line. You can get this at any hardware store. It's 1/4 inch. And to get it started, I I put the washer on the screw, put it through the hole. I add another washer, and I start screwing this in. This is the tricky part, kind of holding everything in place when you start screwing it in. And once you get it going, it kind of threads itself into the copper. But sometimes it's a little difficult. Sometimes it's really easy. This is making way too much noise. Sometimes it's really easy and sometimes it's a little more difficult. But I get it going. And then it is not all the way in yet. And I'm going to add, I'm using E6000 glue. I'm going to add a little glue behind the washer here and a little glue behind the washer here. And that will ensure that after it's all together, that it's nice and secure. And then I finish screwing it in. And I learned from experience that you want to get it tight, but if you overly tighten it, I have cracked a piece before. So I'm gonna get this fairly tight. It's getting pretty hard. This one's pretty hard to screw. Some of them are not as hard. And I'm going to try to move this around a little bit, and it's still moving a little bit around. So I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit more. And that feels pretty secure. So it looks like this. And then I am going to use the same glue, and I'm going to put a pretty generous dollop on top of that screw and add my middle piece, and that will hide the screw. And I'm going to prop it up so that it can dry just like this. Otherwise your middle piece, your center of your flower, will move around. So find a place you can prop it up. I actually use an open drawer and kind of just prop it up in there. When that's dry, we'll add the leaf and it'll be done. Next is the leaf. And I have this mold. Actually, it's a 2-part mold. I got it at glasshousestore.com, and the way it works is that you cut out your glass, you fuse it together, you put your glass between these 2 layers, and there's a special fusing schedule that comes with your molds, and when it comes out of the kiln, it will have this veining that's pressed right into the leaves. Kind of makes really cool leaves. And I have traced my leaf, made it a little bit smaller than my leaf, and I've used craft foam to make my template, and I'm going to use 2 of these for each leaf. And I am using an olive green. I find avocado green is kind of a good color too to use. And I'm just going to cut out my leaf. And if I have any sharp points poking out, I just kind of use my rosing pliers to smooth it out a little bit so there's not a sharp point there. And I'm doing a full fuse, so even if it's a little jagged, it'll come out all nice and smooth when I'm done. have some high fire wire or nichromium wire. And I'm going to sandwich it between my 2 layers of glass. And then I will put this into the kiln for a full fuse. So tomorrow we'll add the veining. To press the leaves in between the molds, I have the bottom part of the mold already in the kiln. And I'm going to just make a sandwich out of these leaves, or out of these molds. And then I'm going to fire according to the directions that came with my leaf. My leaves are done fusing, and you can see that they now have the veining in them. There's a little bit of zip on them that I had sprayed on the molds for releasing, but that'll scrub off with a little scrub brush. I'll clean them up a little and they'll be ready to put on the stems. I filmed it, but somehow it got lost about how I attached my leaf, but I thought I could just as easily show you here. All I did was wrap this wire around the copper refrigerator line, and then I put a couple of dots of East 6000 glue just to keep it from twirling around or from slipping down. Really easy to do, so I didn't think I needed to film it again. It was pretty easy to see what I did. So, the flower is done. Ta-da! Hope yours turned out great. I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And then check out my other fused glass tutorials on my YouTube channel. You can also find me on Etsy, PJ's Glass Creations, and on Facebook, also PJ's Glass Creations. Have a great day. Bye.